I gave a 16-minute message a couple of days ago. Since that day, I had trouble trying to get my videos back online. That message was for those who have been dying to self, doing God's will with all of their heart. They will definitely see God move for them. They will definitely see something they have never seen before. They will definitely walk into things without even trying because they have been faithful. The Lord said during this time, He made His children, His true children, who are obedient with every atom of their being. He made them strong. That's why He can come and say, just a few more steps. Because you see, the fruits of the Spirit, long-suffering, endurance, brings patience. When you have patience, like I've said many, many times, and I laugh when I say it, when you watch for something, take a look at what it's like to watch water boil. Put it on the stove cold and wait and watch it. Watch it bubble a little bit. And it seems like it takes forever when you're in a hurry, when you want something boiled really bad. And you see those little bubbles and you keep waiting for them to get bigger to come to full boil. And it seems like it takes so long. Well, so it is when you sit down and you watch constantly and wait. This is why the Lord had me learn. If He came to me and said, Marion, I'm going to have you move. 2 years, you're going to be in this house and you'll move. Okay. I'd put it on the shelf, forget all about it, live my life, do everything He wants me to do with no thought of what's coming. None. So, to the day, we had traveled up north because we were selling the house down south. And I said to the Lord, Lord, tomorrow is going to be 2 years. And you told me to the day that we were going to leave the house in 2 years. We were going to sell it. Well, we took a house we spent $67,000 for, and we sold it for $119,000, and it was well worth it. It was worth more than that because of what we did to it to improve it, and we loved every minute of the work. It was so enjoyable. Anyway, the day came that the moment I prayed that prayer, it said, Lord, you told me this. The phone rang, and there was a man on the other end that said, I want to buy your house. This is a positive, done deal. We got to make the deal tomorrow. So my husband and I immediately left, went down south, and the house was sold. And the woman at the bank said, boy, you just made it under the wire. That if you would have sold this house tomorrow, it would have cost you $7,000 more. It was amazing to me. But you see, God is so faithful in what He says. And it happens the way He says it. So if He came to you through all of your trials and your tribulations, and He said something to you, you can take it as written in stone if it's a blessing. I can remember Him coming to me and telling me about another house. And I think I said it was a 5-level house. It had an attic, it had a cellar, it had a game room, a living room, and an upstairs. That's 5 levels. It was a big house. And He came to me and He said, Marion, you are going to sell this house so fast that it's going to make your head spin. You're going to be out of here. I want to send you somewhere. And I told my husband laughed because we were not even thinking about selling it. And I just want to tell you these things because when I say to you, certain things are going to happen and you believe the prophet, they will. So anyway, suddenly the next day, we're thinking about selling it, which we would have never thought about it. And so we call a real estate agent and we make an appointment for Wednesday. My husband falls asleep on the couch in the afternoon on Sunday, and a woman comes knocking at the door. And she says this to me, I want to buy your house. I had no sign that it's up for sale. I had nobody that I told. And I said to her, well, I don't do that kind of transaction on Sunday. And we made a deal with a real estate agent, and I'm not going to rob her of her commission, even if she isn't the one that sold it. Because she may have been the one that put it on the market. And the woman says, I said, so you're going to have to come back on Wednesday if you still want it. And she looked at me and she said, I have $40,000 in my hand right now as a down payment. I said, well, I'm sorry, I can't take it. If you want it, come back on Wednesday. Now, the funny thing about this was, and I may have said before, how God told me what the house was worth. We paid $40,000 for 15 acres. And I went to God and says, well, now we're selling it a few years later. How much is it worth? And the Lord said, $100,000. And my husband said, Marion, you're crazy. Nobody is going to pay $100,000 for this house. I says, well, I only can tell you what God told me. So that day we get a knock at the door and it's the electric company. And the electric company says, you see that little trailer spot on your property? We want to pay you $78,000 for that little trailer spot because we want to put a tower on it and move the towers into this neighborhood. And I said to him, well, I'm sorry, but if you want to put a tower there, you're going to have to buy all the property because we'll leave. I'm not going to live with an electric tower right on the middle of my property. And he said, how much do you want? And I remembered God said $100,000. So I told him that. And he said, okay, if you take this down payment of $10,000 and agree that for $100,000, then it's a done deal. But if it falls through and we can't come in here, you still get the $10,000 for nothing. Well, that sounded like a good deal to me. And I can't tell you that I knew what was going to happen, but I noticed as all the neighbors who didn't have what I had, because I had 2 barns and 2 garages and a pasture and a 5-level home on there, even though it was very old. They had nothing. They didn't even have 15 acres or nothing. And every time I saw them at the store, they said, "Oh no, I'm holding out. It's the electric company. They can give us far more than what they offered us." And I said, "Well, I took the down payment because they offered me a fair price. God told me it was fair. That's what he wanted." So 2 weeks pass by. I get another knock at the door. The deal fell through. Nobody got a penny but my $10,000 check. So I called them up and I said, "What do I do with this $10,000 check?" And they say, "Is it signed by so and so?" And I said, "Yes." And they screamed, "Someone got $10,000 for nothing." They said, "Lady, get it cashed. It's yours." So after that comes that woman, which is only, we're talking about days. We're not talking about months. We're not talking about weeks. And so, and she comes and she's got $40,000 down payment for the house. Well, we get to the Wednesday, and my husband says, "Marion, this place is old. There's just no way we can sell it for $100,000. That woman won't even pay probably $75,000 because we paid only $40,000 for it." I said, "Bob, God says it's worth $100,000. So he says, "Okay." Well, as it turned out, talking to the real estate agent, she paid and wrote a check for $90,000 for my home. And I said to her, "We're selling it as is because it's old. Don't you want to know anything about it?" She said, "No, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to know." She says, eminent domain came and took her property and they gave her half and she won't get the other half, which makes 90,000 until she moves in. And she said, so she wants to pay 90,000. Well, we got the money right away. She moved in because we moved right out. And here's the thing. How do you move out of a 5-level home with 2 barns and 2 garages? How do you do that so fast? We were out of there in 10 days. That was fast. So that she could move right in. So I went to God and I said, "Lord, you told me my house was worth $100,000. And he smiled and he said, "Marion, that 90,000 with the $10,000 check is $100,000. And I was satisfied. There was no way I was going to say, "But God, you could have given me more," like those people were doing and got nothing. If you live the life, like I said, live such a life that you are so obedient to God in everything, no matter how it hurts, no matter what you think, that when you do that, what will happen is whatever comes out of the mouth of someone will be a lie. So I'm not concerned that someone doesn't like me or someone says this about me. I don't live like that. God's already shown me who I am and where he's at in my life. Now, that's only one tiny miracle that I've told you about. when there's so many. That's why I have all of those testimonies. Because you see, the Bible says that we are saved by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimonies, and we love not our life unto death. The word of our testimony saves. Believe it or not, it has a real impact. Because if your mouth speaks solid truth, the purity of it through the living in the mind, in the eyes, in the heart, living it 24/7, believe you me, that's Jesus Christ. And nothing can stop what he will do. No one. And I mean, I went through a lot of things that the enemy tried to prove that it just wasn't going to happen for me. And it did. And it will. I can remember telling God that I have all of this information that you give me daily. And I mean, I wrote a lot of it. So that's why I wrote 2 books. And I have so much, but I don't have any place to preach it. And God had said to me, you have no idea of what I have in store for you. And just like everything else, after he said it to me, I put it on the shelf and busied about doing his will and work. I didn't think about it. I don't think about anything he says. I know it'll come to pass. If you do that, it will come to pass. Because it's in your faith that he's pleased. And what is he pleased about your faith? He is pleased in the love that you have for Jesus Christ, in the knowledge and knowing that the power of his name, the power of his blood, the price he paid will bring all things into your life. Trusting in him, lifting him up far above everything and anything, whether it's your home, whether it's your spouse, whether it's your children, trusting him for it all. It's for the flesh, that's not an easy thing. That's why I talk to people in the hopes that they'll hear it and obey it so that they may be safe. I don't waste my breath. God didn't waste his breath with me. I don't waste my breath on you. You keep plowing on to do God's will. You put your hand to the plow, that I am going to do it your way, Lord. He will lead you into his way like you have never seen. But if you puff yourself up and look around like they're so dumb they don't have it, God must really love me because he chose me. You're going to lose everything because I never did that. The humble heart that knows they are nothing without God, knows that they could not speak or do anything without God. That's the one God's going to hear. That's the humble heart. That's the one he gave me. Because even though I speak very boldly, even though I speak what he tells me to say. I don't speak what I want to say. Because when I first started this, boy, believe you me, I said, Lord, I can't do this. No one talks like this. And God says, you will, because it's me. And the fear and the terror of God come on me and asked me, how could you doubt the presence of my glory and my spirit? How could you doubt it? That it's me. And in your future, if you ever have a problem in believing, I will come upon you like this, and it will be a comfort to you. And boy, I'll tell you, the first time he came, I begged him to never come again. Because the flesh cannot bear being in his presence. That's why people fall over. Oh, I'm not talking about, the Spirit of God comes down in a church. Those who want to be deluded, those who do not love God, strong delusion will fall upon them like a blanket. They will feel God's presence and be positive that they are right with God when they know they are sinning like the devil. That's delusion. It don't come from Satan. He didn't come and tempt you because it tells you in James. But God didn't tempt you to do evil. God just allowed you to believe a lie. Because your mind already decides what direction it's going to go. If you know when you go home you're going to live like a devil, hey, you can't say, well, God, but he touched me. Yes, he did. Because he wants you to turn away. He wants you to love that presence so much that you will honor it, obey it, pick up your cross and follow him. So he falls upon those who are truly obedient and he blesses them, but he also blessed you in the power of that strong delusion so that you don't believe a lie. I'll tell you, if you only could see God the way he truly is, there are things that you would never say or do. And that's why it's important to strive to not use your fleshy eyes. Oh, I seen a pastor say, well, the Spirit of God comes through your eyes, through the retina, through. No, he doesn't. Well, the Spirit of God comes through your fleshy imagination. Use it. No, he doesn't. He doesn't need your brain. Well, you must memorize it, pound it into there, do it over and over and over. Well, you memorize a dead word. You keep it dead because you've put it in your brain. He didn't. You did. And you think that because you put it in there that it's God, and it's not the way it works. The Spirit of God doesn't need anything about you to reveal himself to you, to come upon you. And when you stand in his presence, he tells you the soldiers that came to get him, they fell backwards. So when you're playing games with the Lord in the things of God, the spiritual things of God, it's going to manifest in the services. And you're going to see people barking like dogs. You're going to see them doing stupid things and all laughing and saying, this is God. You're going to see them where they have circus acts in the church, or they have dancers where you worship those dancers and watch them worship the Lord when your eyes should never be on someone else's worship. Your eyes should be worshiping him. Like I said about the one pastor's wife, well, she was taking over the church, and she says she was worship leader. And she says, oh, Marion, I don't know what I'm going to do because every time we begin to sing, in the back corner there, a big black cloud comes. And I said, what are you doing paying attention to Satan? She looked at me. I said, worship is not for you to watch everybody. It's not for you to see how they like your singing. It's not for you to look over there and I have to rebuke that and I have to fight over here. No, no, no. Worship is you lift up your heart in your hands and your heart towards God and you see nothing else but God. Nothing. You don't see any person. You don't care who's around you because you're in his presence. And that means everything. And if you don't worship like that, something is wrong with your worship. Because you know that when you obey his word and you die to self, do you know that's worship? Far more worship than praising him for hours and repeating the same thing. You know how many people repeat the same phrase thinking they're ushering in the Holy Spirit? They repeat it over and over and over again. When the Bible says don't pray repetitiously, for they think they are heard for their much speaking. So you think you go to church and you think that you are heard because you sing over and over and over. That's worshiping God. God would love you to obey him one moment than to spend hours doing that kind of worship. Say, well, you're telling me that's no, I didn't say that to you. For the Spirit of God comes, believe it or not, he comes to every person. He comes to every church. He comes to bring a blessing of him. Whether it's, if he gives you strong delusion, it's because he wants to save you, because he's not out to destroy you. He's not out to overthrow you or hurt you. If God should cut you asunder and pull the rug out from underneath you and take everything that you think you have, it's because he loves you. And he knows that the condition you were in, you were going to go to hell if you didn't repent. So he'll just take everything off of you. Because it's better for you to die to the flesh. It is better for you to go through that pain than for you to keep on going the path you're on that is like this. You don't understand God. You do not know him as he is. You've been taught so many different things that if you don't have this doctrine and do this, and this way, you don't have God. That's a lie. It goes against the word. Jesus Christ is the only mediator between God and man. It's not your pastor. It's not your husband. When they say you gotta have a man, and you're foolish enough to listen to that, oh no, just go take a look in Genesis, where God the Father came to Eve and said, what did you do? When he spoke to her and she spoke back and Adam was nowhere around, that meant she knew how to talk to God and had a relationship with him. Otherwise, that never would have happened. She didn't run and say, Adam, I need you. I need you. I can't talk to God without you. I can't pray. I can't anything. You have to stand before me and be in God's presence because you are the man. No, no, no. It is called mankind for a reason. She's part of mankind. And she's an equal part in a lot of ways. She can do things he can't do, and he can do things she can't do. So that makes them like this. That makes them part of one another. And you can't have one lift up above the other. Due benevolence is due respect. You can't force submission. You can't dare go to God. The wife cannot dare go to God believing that God is on her side and is going to make her husband love her. Not going to work. He didn't make you love him. Why would he make your husband love you? It's the same thing with a man. He's not going to make your wife do what you want. You're foolish. If you think you have that kind of God, you are very foolish. You are working a powerful form of a type of witchcraft. A control. You take your hand and you control that person like this. That is not God. He didn't give you that permission. He didn't. You would learn how to be the man in your home. See, you haven't learned that. You don't know how to be that. You only know how to act like macho man. You only know how to look as though you're better than most men because you can control your wife and get her to do certain things they can't do. You're stupid. And the wife? Oh, she'll do everything to manipulate you to get her way if you let her. That's why you spend time, like Corinthians says, and you separate so that you could clearly see who is who. Because when you're like this, you can't see who's thinking what. But when you're like this, you understand. If you're wise in God and listening to God, you understand what you think and what you feel without Him or without her. So you know where you stand with God. That's why He says separate by permission. You don't fast and pray because you're going to find out what your wife is thinking. You're again stupid because you're playing games with the things of God. You can't do that. God won't let you do it. You're going to get hurt. The moment you lift yourself up to do what you want with the Word of God the way you want, you have opened up a door to destroy you, to hurt you. You opened it. Your wife didn't open it. Your children didn't. You opened it. And when the wife and the husband are not in one accord like this, and they're like this, the children are open season for the devil. And you'll go and spank them. You'll beat them. And you'll even, some of you will even believe that they're going to die for what they're doing when you're the cause of it. Because you refuse. Pride keeps you from going like this. A husband of contention, we have no such custom. A husband that contends fights to be the man. It's a competition. I'm going to prove to her I've got God and she don't have him without me. Oh, you got the worst kind of trouble there is. I'm just letting you know. God hates that. You say, well, Timothy says, and well, you know, if you take a look at the new prostitutes were coming in and they were jangling and making so much noise, they were telling them, go home and learn from your husband. But if you take a look at another part of the word, you will see where they says, the lady elect that had many children, pray for her because she helped me. There's only one place that they would use the word elect. Make your calling election sure. That is saying that the lady elect was elected to preach the gospel. But all through the years, the commentators say, oh, it was just a woman with a lot of children. But see, that's so hidden to blind your eyes, to make you think, I'm a man. Oh, yes, you are. And if you were a real man, she would worship you. She would just fall down at your feet and worship you the way they did to Jesus. Because a real man would never force his wife to do one tiny little thing. He doesn't have to. He would never have to pray to take control. Control is a form of witchcraft. Intimidation is a form of witchcraft. Manipulation is a form of witchcraft. And you use that on your wife and your children because you have no faith in God, because you won't do it His way. And your life is being destroyed and you blame everybody else but you. And she may be in the same condition because you've convinced her that she's nothing without you. Because you see, when she tries to find God, she sees you. That's all she sees is you. And you think God likes that. There's no mediator between God and man except Jesus Christ. And because the word man is used there, you don't think she's part of mankind. There is no mediator between God and that woman. If you do this, you're in trouble with God. And you're the one that's going to have the problem. Oh, you might make her miserable. You might be a big shot among the pastors. You might be a big shot everywhere you go. But you're not fooling God one bit. Because you're striving to make someone submit. You can't get your children to submit. You know why? Because what you are doing in secret is unnatural, and your child gets tempted to the unnatural because of you. And then you have the gall to say, get out of here. You need to be turned over to Satan. You're going to pay for what you do to that child because you're doing it. Go read Romans chapter 2. When you think someone is worthy of death for men with men and women with women, and you don't see that long list of reprobate sins which you are doing, and then you judge, you have no excuse before God. You judge them to be worthy of death like as if you're not. Because he says you not only do the same things, but you have pleasure in them that do them. How in the world can you do the same thing as men with men and women with women? Unless you're doing it in your own bedroom with your wife and forcing her. And I have seen too many cry. I've seen too many run from the demon that's trying to sodomize her. Or force her into a form of sex that makes her feel filthy and dirty. Or because she's been married for 35 years and he wants nothing else but oral sex. She, as a woman, he will not use her. He can't. Poor him, he can't. These people are taking the course of the world and they're worshiping in church. They serve in church. And you just love them.